Members, we have House File 335 in front of us with our first-time representative here presenting his very first bill. So welcome to this, Pete Johnson, Representative Johnson. Also, members, I want to say, too, that because of our printer malfunction or the ability to push the print button on a regular basis, we have another letter that's attached to this in support of Rep. Johnson's bill today, so I want to make sure that that's clarified. It's in an email. I wanted to make sure that we recognize that as well. So with that, Representative Johnson, welcome to your committee. House File 335 will be considered for possible future consideration, will be laid over today. Representative Johnson, please proceed with your bill.
Thank you, Chair Baker. House File 335 is a bipartisan effort to keep the Greater Minnesota Business Development Public Infrastructure Grant Program operating so that it can continue to deliver investments to Greater Minnesota. For members that may not be really familiar with this program, let me offer a little bit of background. This program came out of an effort from the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities in 2002 and was passed by the legislature and enacted in 2003. Since 2010, $75 million have been awarded to Greater Minnesota counties and cities through 167 individual BDPI grants, creating more than 5,000 new jobs and retaining nearly 10,000. With this program, DEED is given the authority to make grants to these counties and cities for up to 50% of the capital costs of the public infrastructure related to an eligible economic development project. The purpose of these grants is to keep or enhance jobs, increase the local tax base, and expand or create new economic development in those communities. Some of the examples of what this funding has been used for includes constructing or extending utilities to industrial parks and expanding or relocating utilities to increase capacity or expand operations. Currently, the fund is running out of money, and to my understanding, there's still a number of projects in the queue that would be able to benefit if we replenish it. So this bill is to provide $2.5 million per year of the biennium to help Greater Minnesota communities grow their economies, create and retain jobs, and fill financial gaps in proposed developments. Mr. Chair, I have two testifiers via Zoom today, both of whom are recent award recipients who can speak to the value of this program. First, we have the city administrator from the city of Hermantown and Representative Zalesnikar's district up there, John Mulder, and then the city administrator from the city of Fosston, Cassie Hyde. And after they're done testifying, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative Johnson, for that. Welcome to the committee. Mr. Mulder, if you can hear us okay, you can go ahead and proceed. Introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity to hear about a project and the impact the Business Development Public Infrastructure Grant Program has had in real life in Hermantown, and my testimony to support that. I'm John Mulder. I'm the city administrator and have been in Hermantown here for 15 years. Hermantown recently received a $2 million grant to aid development of public infrastructure on a 40-plus acre parcel along Highway 53 near the Duluth Airport. This site is a former EPA Superfund site, which was delisted within the last 5 years. The site has sat vacant for decades because of the environmental challenges with that land. A long time ago, it had been used as a used oil refinery, and there were and still remain concerns about contaminated soil. Since the parcel had been delisted, the city has been working with private landowners to create a business park that would have high visibility and great access due to the fact that it has frontage along Highway 53 in Hermantown. As stated, the proposed park is 40 acres with improved infrastructure, and we would anticipate between 200,000 and 500,000 square feet of commercial space, with private investment somewhere between $50 to $100 million. We anticipate this would create between 200 and 300 jobs. The projected infrastructure costs exceed $5 million. With a state grant of $2 million, and the city would contribute another $1 million, and the balance of $2+ million being funded by the private landowners and developers. Since that time of the announcement of that grant, we've been having ongoing discussions with companies from local businesses that want to expand or relocate to a more visible and park that is ready to go. These have been also included Fortune 500 companies that are looking to locate here in Hermantown. My testimony is really simple. That has been a game changer for Hermantown. And it's plain and simple that this business park and the potential investment and development would not happen without this type of grant. The fact that it was a former EPA Superfund site and the issues of contamination, it simply wouldn't happen for private investment to put in that level of infrastructure to make this project happen. So the presence of this type of fund that exists and assists potential development is incredibly valuable to the state of Minnesota. We thank you for the grant, and we hope that you would continue to support the program. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Mulder, and appreciate your testimony today and for the great work you're doing up in Hermantown. Next up would be Ms. Heidi, City Administrator from the City of Fosston. If she could join us, and please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having me. I'm the City Administrator for the City of Fosston. I've been here for just about 19 years. And our story is much like Mr. Mulder's story. We are the recipients as well of this BDPI grant, and we're also recipients of a federal EDA grant for the build out of a 40-acre industrial park in our community just off of US Highway 2. And we also have the 40 acres. We're building out 12 lots. And much like the city of Hermantown, I don't believe this project would come to fruition without the additional funding from BDPI. And so, these funds help keep the lot prices affordable, attracting businesses to Fosston, fostering job creation, and strengthening the local economy. Our last industrial park expansion added more than 100 jobs, surpassing the goal that was set during planning. This is our fourth industrial park expansion. The funding allows us to finish out the project and concentrate on other areas of our city that need improvements to accommodate the growth that will come with this new industrial park, like housing and utility infrastructure. Since 2020, over 20 new homes and housing units have been added to Fosston that will support additional workers that are going to be needed in this as this industrial park fills. Additionally, we've been able to update our electric and natural gas utility infrastructure. And so I would just say that the impact of this grant is farther reaching beyond the project itself. It really allows small communities in greater Minnesota to get the work done that they need in their communities to be able to attract new residents, attract new businesses, and retain the size of our community. Certainly is very important, but to allow us to grow as well. And we are certainly very thankful for the funding. And thank you to Representative Johnson for bringing this forward. And I would urge you to support House File 335. Thank you for allowing me to participate via Zoom. Happy to be in front of you all and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Heidi. Great testimony, and appreciate what you do for the city of Fosston. Member, no more testifiers, correct?
Correct.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Johnson. This is kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, for Greater Minnesota members, this is kind of a sexy program. You here would allocate $5 million. How did you arrive at $5 million, and where does that stand by comparison to what has been put in the fund in recent years? And is that going to be able to supply communities outside of northern Minnesota?
Representative Johnson.
Yeah, so the $2.5 million per year is a slight increase on what it was before. I believe last time it was funded right around $2.2 million. And also in the governor's budget at that amount. I think the increase would fall in line with some of the inflationary things that we're seeing, and just ultimately to be able to deliver more projects to Greater Minnesota. Looking at some of the projects that have been handed out or awarded, those projects aren't always in the millions of dollars. Some of them are in the $200,000, $150,000 range that really impact these communities.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative Johnson, I represent central Minnesota. Are we going to be able to get some dollars out of northern Minnesota?
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Baker. You're going to have to fight for it. But it is available to greater Minnesota, which is everything outside of the 7-county metro here.
That's a great answer, Representative Johnson. Back to Representative Schultz. Any follow-up?
I was just going to congratulate Hermantown on their recent success, and the rest of us will look for our pennies.
All right. Member, any further questions? Representative Greenman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as
Polsky.
somebody who represents a district that will not get anything from this, I am very familiar with the send the money north that our former colleague, Representative List-Lagarde, used to say. And I really appreciate this bill. I'm wondering if there are sort of other projects in the wings that the $5 million would go to and folks are thinking about funding.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Baker, Representative Greenman. I don't have a list of the current projects in the queue. Deed probably has where that's sitting, but I don't have that information with me.
Representative Kozlowski.
Thanks, Chair Baker. And thanks, Rep. Johnson, for bringing this bill. This is one that we were really proud to pass in the bonding bill. You know, we did $10 million in 2023, and it's included in the base budget. And these are funds that I think from border to border, greater Minnesota, you know, we punch above our weight to make sure that we're supporting not just our districts, but district love to get money out to other folks too. We know that as we're facing, you know, workforce challenges, and housing crisis, that these go hand in hand. And so whether it's supporting our manufacturing warehouses that are coming out to greater Minnesota, lots of folks after COVID are also looking to move out there and having challenges finding a place to live. And so these sewer hookups for creating new business industrial parks and spurring housing is exactly where I want to see us continue to move and invest. So just thank you for your good work.
Thank you. And final question, Representative Mecklin.
Thank you, Chair Baker. Not so much a question, but Representative Johnson, there used to be a fine thing we would do that whenever you had your first bill presented before a committee, you had to bring a treat. Perhaps your colleagues have not informed you of such. Much of that did go away when we were remote for 2021 and 2022, but feel free next week to share the love.
Well, and members, again, we have shared about this second offline. His predecessor, Representative Olson, was always bragging up the Johnson Bakery in Duluth, so I think we're going to have something maybe in the coming weeks. So no pressure, Representative Johnson, but again, I just want to thank you. Any closing comments on your bill?
Thank you, Chair Baker. Couple closing comments. In spirit of this bill to help greater Minnesota, I figured it wouldn't be appropriate for me to buy treats in the 7-county metro, so that will have to be something I'll address when we come back next week. But I want to thank the testifiers for sharing their stories today and how these programs have impacted and allowed those communities to keep expanding. Thank you to Chair Baker and members for considering this bill. This program has helped and will hopefully continue to help communities across the state. And I am sensitive to the budget situation we're facing, but I think it's important for us to remember that we know investments like this are good for greater Minnesota, and I think we also know what's good for greater Minnesota is good for all of Minnesota. So I just want to thank everybody and urge support on this bill.
Representative Johnson, good first bill. Nice hearing. We will consider laying this bill over. We will lay this bill over for further consideration, and thank you for bringing that forward.